All right, welcome back. Now we're talking about the new budget that's been passed. With a 500 billion naira increase, the National Assembly approved the 2018 budget 6 months after it was presented by the executive. The chairman of the Senate Committee on Appropriation, Danjuma Goje, said the increment done in consultation with the executive was informed by a decision to increase oil benchmark.
Yeah. Now, from the proposed 45 to 51 naira in exchange rate of 305 naira to a dollar and production of 2.3 million barrels of oil per day. Now, funds accrued from the increment will be spent on some projects already earmarked by the committee. Now, he said the surplus fund was spread on some critical sectors, giving a breakdown of how much more will be spent in different sectors. Now, with the latest 42.72 billion naira will be spent on security, 57 billion on the 1% vote for the health as mandated by the National Health Act, and the Ministry of Power, Works and Housing now gets 106 billion naira.
Yes, and other areas are education, 15.17 billion naira, judiciary, 10 billion, and Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, 44.20 billion naira. He added that the increment will allow for a 50.88 billion naira deficit reduction.
All right, on Skype we have financial analyst Nemeka Obiareri joining us right now. Nemeka, good morning.
Good morning, Mike.
Yes,
morning.
It's nice to have you on. Well, we have discussed, I remember we've had you countless times talking about the budget. When will it be passed? When will it be passed? Now it has been passed, now waiting for assent. How happy should Nigerians be?
Mike, we are happy that they've passed the budget. And the next thing now is for them to implement it. And basically, the same problem we have in Nigeria. This budget was predicated initially on an oil price benchmark of $44.5 per barrel. And all of a sudden, because of the sudden surge in oil prices to $78, we have gone the same way again of jacking up the benchmark by $5. And nobody bothered to ask ourselves this question. What is the cause of this surge in oil prices? Why is this so, and is this sustainable? You know, in our haste to spend, in our haste to appropriate more, to share more, we've jacked up the benchmark from $44 to almost by $5 to $51, almost $6.5. Nobody bothered to ask, do you know the impact of, if we have decided to say, okay, dedicate this particular fund, $6 on 2.3 million barrels per day for 365 days, and say, okay, we are putting this money aside for specific infrastructure, or we are setting this money aside for the sovereign wealth fund to tackle counterpart funding under a PPP framework, just as we have been doing since 1966, just as we have been doing over the last 18 years. We've jacked it up. I can tell you, Mike, what is driving this oil price are just pressures, exigent factors that are beyond our control. It will not last. It will not be sustained. Okay, what happened if this thing drops back to about $50 per barrel? What will happen? It's a question we need to ask ourselves.
Yeah, very good question there. Very good question you raise. Maybe you want to tell us exactly what you think the cost of this additional higher cost of crude oil in the global market will be to Nigeria, about $80 per barrel now.
Because it's a good development. Like I've always said, God has been so good to Nigeria. I will tell you, Providence is playing a good one for us. We do not, as a country, control the price of the crude oil in the global market. A lot of external factors, which is beyond, nobody nobody, as of January 2018, nobody ever predicted or saw oil at this level. The global experts have always assumed that oil would remain at the $60 level, at the highest level towards the end of the year, even to 2019. But as God will have it, oil is trending at $80 per barrel, just like it did in 2010, 2011, 2012. I expect the government of the day at all levels to begin to think out of the box. It's good that the prices have gone beyond our expectation. It's good that this thing will shrink our deficit limits. What we should be thinking about now is how do we utilize the excess of this earning in implementing the economic recovery growth plan of the federal government of Nigeria? How do we use this thing to stimulate the other sectors of Nigeria outside the crude oil market? That should be our question. It's not enough to jack up the benchmark so that they will have enough to share. I even saw from the sticker that you placed up there on the telly, they've also jacked up the current expenditure. They've jacked up every other overhead. This should not be so. This should be a time for us to sit down and ask ourselves, how do we diversify this economy? But unfortunately, we're already in the electionary season. From now till May 2019, nothing will happen. All you'll be seeing now are jostling and joking to see how they can get one or two other funds extra to fund their electoral battle, and which is very, very unfortunate. I expect those that manage our economy, the economy, to sit down and ask ourselves these critical questions. Can we continue to remain at this level where we depend everything about our economic management on external factors? Time for diversification is now. Time for us to look at other sectors of the economy, agriculture, solid minerals. How do we diversify? The other time, the federal government told us that they signed a contract to do the Abuja leg of the rail, Lagos-Kano rail line, standard gauge line. And they told us that they're going to spend $6.7 billion because it's outrageous. I did a rough desktop analysis of this amount. From Ibadan to Abuja is about 562 kilometers along the already earmarked rail line for Nigeria. They say it will detour from Oshogbo to Ado-Ekiti. From Oshogbo to Ado-Ekiti is 76 kilometers. Because if you put it together, it's 608 kilometers. To do a standard gauge line all over the world, you can ask, you can do your own research. To do a standard gauge rail line with all the infrastructure costs between $3 million to $3.2 million per kilometer. World Bank, every other nation that have done similar thing has this record. Even in some bad topographies, nations that have topographies. If you should do your arithmetic, to do a 638 kilometer rail network or standard gauge system with all the infrastructure should not take us anything more than $4 billion if we are doing the dual carriageway back and forth. How we arrived at $6.7 billion for a project that can be executed for $4 billion is something I cannot understand. I do not understand why the $2.7 billion differentials. I do not understand how they arrived at that 66% jack-up. You can do your research. Ask every other global expert in the area of rail infrastructure development. Up till now, we do not understand how they intend to arrange these investments. We are still operating under a moribund Rail Law 1955 Railway Act. In other developing economies, from Singapore to United Arab Emirates to South Africa to Britain, rail infrastructure is governed under private-public partnership arrangement, from the rail network management to the rail transport coach management to the administration. The only thing government should be involved itself in is in the area of regulation. But here in Nigeria, we are being told that a rail network of 608 kilometers to and fro is going to take $6.7 billion.
All right, Nemeka, let's put you on hold a little. Nemeka, can you hear me? Sorry. All right. All those figures, wonderful. It's good you're giving us all of those to give us some enlightenment.
How do you justify the cost that's been put to, some rail projects? As far as you're concerned, it looks like Nigeria has found a way to double what it costs to do a 1 kilometer road that is a standard everywhere in the world. Somehow it's different in Nigeria. But let's come back to the question of the real focus of this budget, which some analysts say has to do more with spending rather than investing in vital infrastructure, for example.
Because that is true. And even from your news clip, now let me tell you the most unfortunate thing about our situation. Sometimes I feel like crying. And let me explain this to you. Now, you saw that the Nigeria Governors Forum, they've asked for NNPC to account for the doubling of our consumptions of petroleum products and the subsidy payment of about 1.4 trillion the highest ever in the history of this country. Now, the problem we have refused to understand is this. As the price of the crude oil is going up, the price of the refined oil products, both of the PMS, the HGO, and the DPK will also continue to go up. Basically, since we do not refine anything here in Nigeria, most of what we earn as crude oil prices revenue is applied by NNPC in paying for subsidy and importing for the refined petrol products. Net, we are left with nothing. Now, I'm here to understand how our consumption doubled from 32 million in 2015 to 60 million per day liters in less than 3 years, even at periods when economic activities have gone down, that we have even had lower consumption. I am here to understand how our subsidy moved from 970 billion per annum to 1.4 trillion, even after the pump price of the PMS was jacked up from 7 naira to 145 naira, an increment of 66%. I am here to understand the reasons given. The other day they asked NNPC GMD, and the guy said that it's because people are smuggling petroleum products outside Nigeria, because it's not true. Before 2015, Nigerians were smuggling petrol through the borders to Chad, to Niger, and to Cameroon. Because it was even more profitable for them then, because the pump price was 87, so they were making so much margin. The problem we have in that is because the system that allows us to festers corruption, and those that are supposed to control this corruption, who continue to regulate us terms of fighting corruption, are the ones who are enabling corruption, are the ones who are engendering corruption, are the ones who are enjoying corruption. I gave you an illustration. If you go from Chad to Niger, to Mali, to Cameroon, even to Liberia, the price of the pump petrol product has been fully deregulated. These economies are not bad at their economy. Citizens of these countries are not living bad at Nigerians. But the major problem we have here is that we continue to impoverish over 98% of Nigerians. Why the bourgeoisie in less than 2%, and both the rich and the middle class, continue to enjoy to the detriment of the masses? What will it take the federal government of Nigeria for us to fully enjoy the benefits of the excess oil monies that we are earning now?
Yeah,
for them to fully regulate the downstream oil and gas sector.
Yes,
to remove that subsidy regime that have continued to allow fat cars steal from us.
All right,
they refused.
Nnameka, we're trying to be cautious of time. So let me just ask you this before we go. Now, the National Assembly have said that they did this increment in consultation with the executive. Now, in the past, we've not really seen a collaboration or a consultative arrangement where the executive is aware of any kind of changes. In fact, we've seen friction in the past. So would you see this as a good development where there seems to be a seamless understanding between the National Assembly and the executive when it comes to amending or jacking up figures in the budget?
Mike, I would have been shocked and surprised if the executive did not consent to this. Let me tell you, the only place where you have uniformity of consent among the political class is when it comes to sharing our oil revenue. I would have been shocked if the executive would have opposed it. Now, let me tell you, it is easy for them. There is nothing like it's a good way forward. What just simply happens is that because we're entering into electoral season, so jacking up the benchmark, padding up the budget and bringing it, providing more for expendable revenue will be good for both the executive and legislative arm of government. I tell you, from now till 2019 May, all they've been joking is on how they will extract excess money from our revenues to be able to prosecute the electoral battle. Mike, I'm going to take this thing away from me. From now till May 2019, every contract that will be awarded will be overinflated. We have seen the rail project now that they say they quickly and hurriedly sign the contract. I will bet you in the next 1 or 2 weeks, they will start releasing the money to the Chinese. Of course, you and I know what will happen. Most of the projects, over the last 2 years, we've always seen poor implementation of budget. But mark it, from now till February, the implementation will be speeded up because these guys are going to rack it up to get money for election.
I was just going to ask.
Which is very unfortunate.
I was just going to ask.
Nigerians. It's just for their pockets.
Okay. I was just going to ask really finally, what you think are the chances of this budget succeeding, considering the time that it has come in and this almost impossible budget cycle being where it really should be? Very quickly, we're out of time.
I pray and I thank God that they will implement it, and I pray that they will do the needful. But like I said, over time, for the past 3 years, this government at all levels, both at the state and the federal government level, have shown us that they do not have our best interest at heart. Let them go ahead and implement it. Let them do what they think they can do for Nigeria. The capital projects are there. The funds have been increased. We pray that they will do the right things for the interest of Nigeria.
Okay. Thank you so much, Nemeka Obiariri, financial expert, giving us expert insight into the prospects of the 2018 budget as passed by the National Assembly. Thank you very much for joining us on Skype.